The bright midday sun beams down onto the rusted metal car that waits patiently outside the stadium walls. Behind the steering wheel sits an uncomfortable Gunter, whose massively muscular body is squeezed into the tight interior of the car like processed meat in a can. His bald head pressed against the roof as sweat drips down his face, through the grooves of scars and into his bushy, unkempt beard that hides specks of gristle that is undoubtedly linked to the splashes of blood that decorates his leather jacket. In the passenger seat is a skinny man wearing nothing but a tattered pair of pale green underwear, and sticking out of them are two little nubs that resemble two pale and tasteless chicken thighs. Named after his small stature, Ant stares out of the window of the car with a slight smile on his face as his immaculate hair gently blows in the wind and slightly shifts on his scalp. Behind him is a nest of wires and spare parts that would sit motionless if not for the slightest of vibrations coming from its innards. A set of flexible metallic limbs extend outwards from the pile of junk, and resting atop of it is a cracked monitor spattered with fading and questionable stains. Flickering and glitching on the screen is the pixelated smiling face of Steve. Sitting next to him in a lipstick-red come-and-go employee shirt is Gary, whose effeminate face scowls in disgust at the new world he sees through the thick lenses of his glasses. A series of crunches and creaks begin to emanate from the gargantuan gates before them, and they spread open like a pair of butt cheeks, unleashing the smell of petrol, deteriorating leather, and the sweat you get in your crack after a few hours of sitting down. Oh my god, please put the windows up right now, Gary urges moments before scrambling to the electrical window switches like a desperate tweaker searching for his last gram.
Gary, you're gonna have to get used to being able to smell people's insides. Ain't gonna last long if you can't handle a little junk funk.
Why aren't the windows working?
Because we're driving a piece of shit.
Don't call Veronica shit because you can't drive.
The car is actually made of aluminium and steel. After all, feces do not rust.
Steve, please tell me you have some sort of air filtration modules or functions.
No, I do not.
Why'd we even take this walking printer?
Because Doc does not trust you and told me to.
The monitor that was previously Steve's pixelated face stutters and turns into a recorded video showing an unfathomably old man dressed in a lab coat.
Stay close to them and make sure they don't cock up. You better not be recording me again.
Doc doesn't trust us. You know, I once caught him stealing my blood.
You don't give him your blood?
Hey!
A buff, rugged guy dressed in a leather uniform yells from his car, which is both simultaneously beat up and pristine like one of the fancier girls from the Break Light District.
You guys gonna stop jibber-jabbing? You're letting out all the heat.
Gunter stomps on the accelerator, causing the engine to scream, and releases the clutch, launching the car forward and almost stalling it in the process. The car leaps through the open gate and screeches to a halt, firing part of the bumper along with shards of rust meters ahead of it and hurling Ant's legless body into the dashboard. The car starts to cough and splutter like a sickly old man as the gates behind them begin to close, sealing in the heat and the pungent smell of its inhabitants.
Right, welcome to Carbinger. I'm guessing you guys are...
The guard's eyes scan the car in front of him and the pieces of scrap metal that have just fallen off beneath it.
visitors. We don't get many outsiders around here, so if you'd like to take these passes...
Gunter leans out of the window and grabs the guard with a meaty fist, perfectly closing his grip around his throat, displaying the muscle memory for choking people. He yanks the man through his window and raises his dangling body into the air.
Where's the V20 Guzzler engine?
Put me back in my car, please, I beg you.
Gunter, put him down.
I agree. I can't bear looking at his skinny legs. They're disgusting.
Almighty One, please don't strike me down. I did not mean to depart with the protection you gave me.
The guard's legs swing and sway like a pair of white tights blowing in the breeze.
Where is it?
A trail of clear snot pours from the guard's nose and into the creases of the tight fist that holds him.
Please, dear Lord, don't punish me.
Gunter!
Oh, fine.
His grip releases and the guard falls to the floor, folding into a clump like dirty laundry. He quickly hops onto his hands and scurries back into his car with ease. Sorry about
There's a race, and the grand prize is the engine you're after.
Thank you.
Shut your mouth, you stick-on toe drag. No, don't redline again. Do it for Morgan. The race is that way.
The guard points down a long corridor where the sound of revving engines, tyre screeches, and immense cheering voices bounce off the walls.
Sounds like we've got a race to win.
Gunter reels his arm back and proceeds to flick the guard's snot off his hand and directly onto Gary's shirt, landing just below the company logo.
I'm done. I've had it with you two psychopaths. Oh my God, you're both unbearable. Is this because we didn't change the radio station? Because there's only the one? What? No, this isn't about the radio. I don't belong here. I'm trying to get my life back and you guys are just going to get me killed. Or worse.
Gary kicks the door open, making a weak then slams it shut with an even weaker
You cannot go. I am tasked to stay close to all of you.
Steve, just come with me. You were tasked with making sure we don't cock up, and I'm probably less likely to cock up since those two are going to try and win a race. Oh, listen to you getting sassy all of a sudden. Could have used a bit of this on the 4-hour drive here. Well, excuse me for not being too chipper after seeing 4 people getting run over.
Doesn't count. They were dead already, and it was actually 5 since there was a pregnant one.
My calculations show there is a 0.0037% chance of Ant and Gunter winning the race and a 0.0049% of Gary succeeding somehow.
Oh, good enough. Let's go. Gary and Steve follow the sounds of cheers as they head deeper into the unknown, their silhouettes slowly becoming more distorted as they pass through the stale air, thick from the decades of engine fumes and evaporated sweat.
He's going to die.
Yeah, probably. At least our odds of winning are higher than I thought they'd...
Before Ant could finish his sentence, he's reunited with the familiar sensation of Gunter's hand perfectly sealed around his thin neck.
That car just got so close to hitting me.
Gary and Steve walk through a wide marketplace where every vendor is selling either grossly expensive car parts, cheap-looking plastic trinkets the price of gold, or tacky car-themed food and drinks like out-of-date tins of spaghetti wheels and flat Coca-Cola.
Another one! Are these people blind or something? It's not like I'm a child playing games behind a parked car.
One after the other, cars go by, all of them at different levels of beat up, but all of them sounding as if they're brand new. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for the drivers. Each of them more disfigured and worn than the last, though they all display bodybuilder physiques akin to Greek gods. Even the children who ride along with the rest of their family look as though they could punch Gary through a wall without breaking a sweat, or tearing their leather outfits that have clearly seen prior generations live and die inside of them.
Ah! They just ran over my foot! That knockoff Mad Max extra looked right at me and didn't even stop.
You should lower your voice to avoid conflict as you have a very low probability of success.
Oh, I was about to give him a knuckle sandwich.
No, you should not do that.
I was being sarcastic. I'm angry, not stupid.
I am sorry. I run on a learning algorithm and I am not used to people talking to me.
Hello? Can someone please help an old man?
Hunched over on the floor amongst a pile of discarded Dwayne Johnson motivational bobbleheads sits a frail old man on the verge of starvation and stinking of fresh piss and shit. From the sheer quantity and places that the human engine oil has stained his clothes suggests that not all of it is his.
My God, what happened to you?
The old man leans forward, revealing his pale and faded eyes that are so cloudy they don't even show Gary's reflection as he gags from the old man's putrid breath.
Would you like to buy one of these effigies of the great thick-legged one? All I need is a few more tokens and the church will grant me another car for protection. And with another car, the city will offer me whatever I could need, and I might even be able to meet Morgan too.
But shouldn't you get some food? You'll starve to death.
I'll die if I'm not protected.
You'll die without food.
But I'll die without a car.
Also, you'll die if you don't eat.
But if I eat, it will take longer to get a car.
Well, this is just going in circles.
Do you mean donuts?
Get a life, you soil sitter!
A woman with more piercings than a gothic masochist throws a bucket of dark brown liquid from the passenger seat of her car. Gary's eyes widens as he sees the steamy fluids heading straight towards him. But moments before contact, Steve's arms extend and connect to Gary, pulling him out of the path of the projectile poop, so he's only hit by the heat radiating off of the stream. Unfortunately, the old man, an intended target, wasn't so lucky.
Thanks, Steve.
You are welcome. Being covered in fecal matter lowers our odds of success by 0.0004%.
Is that all?
You should get onto my back before we lower our probability anymore.
Steve extends his arms once more, this time grabbing a set of flat tyres that have been abandoned on the side of the marketplace. He spreads out all fours like the cover model on the nearby Nuts and Bolts magazine, turning himself into a makeshift car with the horsepower of a sickly donkey. Gary straddles his new ride, and in the distance beyond the marketplace, bells begin to chime.
Let's check out the church.
What are you laughing at?
I was thinking of that guard's face. Oh, put me back in my car!
The car stalls and gracefully rolls to a stop in a clearing. Surrounding them are hundreds of chanting voices, each of them coming from a unique and distinct car.
They recognize their champion has arrived.
Charging towards them come the roars of engines, shortly followed by the vehicles making them. Leading the pack by some distance is a once black but now faded grey muscle car, without the slightest of imperfections to the body. The only thing out of place are the mounds of rose petals that have formed a new layer over the car's bonnet and bumper. They look as though they have only recently been smeared onto the car, and yet all appear to be at different levels of decay. The car, along with the driver, slide across the worn-out track, propelling dust into the air like scratching flaky skin. It comes to a complete stop parallel to the car in its way, providing the driver a perfect position to glare into Gunter's menacingly empty eyes.
You're lucky I'm a good driver.
There's not a car crash in this world that could kill me.
Honestly, you should have ploughed into us. We are scourges upon this earth. Especially this guy.
Ant pats the fiercely muscled shoulder next to him, then looks back at the other driver who seemingly hasn't acknowledged his existence. Her eyes are locked in on Gunter's like a cat, moments before pouncing on some unsuspecting feet.
I would have been very angry if this made me lose.
The fleet that were closely following tear past the two stationary cars, forcing them to rock violently from side to side. But the gaze between the drivers is never broken. As car after car blast past, neither one move nor flinch, as still as statues except for the spanner in the breast pocket of the rivaling driver's overalls. The stadium falls silent as the final car passes, and row upon rows of spectators stare in awe. As quickly as it appeared, the rose-smeared car vanishes into a cloud of dust, spitting hard dirt and stones into Gunter's toe-like face.
Did she just...
I think she did.
His meaty grip tightens around the steering wheel, and the veins in his arms start to bulge out, making his limbs look even more like erect penises than ever before. Then he stomps down hard on the accelerator as if it was someone's skull. The wheels spin and squeal as a plume of dust begins to envelop the car.
Wait, you know you ain't moving.
What?
You're still in the same spot. You need to slow down if you want to speed up.
The car pauses its screams and lowers to a quiet roar as pressure is taken off the accelerator. As the car begins to move, the dust clears from inside of it, revealing Gunter's frustrated stare that is met with Ant's sarcastic smile.
Nobody threatens me and lives.
A polished silver revolver is pulled from Gunter's hip holster, and he cocks the trigger back, getting ready for it.
She just overlapped you.
A trail of rose petals fly by, shortly followed by the rest of the racers, who are once again roaring past Ant and Gunter as if they weren't moving.
She really is a good driver.
Do you take this woman into your embrace? And do you give this man your body and relinquish your God-given protection, uniting the two of you and passing down your protection to our young? Then transfer yourself in the eyes of our gods, and while briefly out of their divine safety, may they choose to strike down this holy matrimony.
A young woman in a grey dress and veil climbs out of her six-seater car and, using her tree-like arms, launches herself across the aisle with legs flapping through the air before she lands clumsily into the passenger seat of her groom's two-seater sports car. The sports
car reverses erratically down the aisle, sliding and swaying while creaks and cracks blare from the rotten floorboards beneath. Just before they reach the church's wide open doors, they swerve past Gary and Steve, giving them a confused stare.
Now we shall begin the sermon.
A few of the cars that were in the audience for the wedding peel off and vacate the church, not before giving Gary and his odd vehicle a bemused look.
Never leave the arms of our gods. They shall protect us and our younglings. Leaving the safety of your car will strike fury upon their faces as you insult what they gave us, and thou shalt be punished.
Steve's wheels slowly turn, delivering Gary down the aisle as though he was giving him away.
The fuel that pumps our bodies is intertwined with the petrol that flows from beneath us, and then sold at a reasonable price, for if it was too cheap, it would not be valuable.
Row after row turn their heads as Gary rolls towards the preacher, and a faint murmuring shortly follows. Why are they all staring? I get why women don't like this.
We must trust in the gods and keep our cars quenched so they may continue to breathe and keep our air fresh. We must trust in our gods' words, and may the gods guide us to... what in the impound are you driving?
The preacher, dressed in a dirty, brown-specked grey gown, points at Gary with a hand holding a torn-up car magazine called Roads and Rage. Behind him are two large stained glass windows that show both Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel with exaggeratedly muscular legs as they stand on the roof of their cars. Both the windows shine and flicker from a yellow headlight behind them, simulating the sun in an attempt to bring life to the church that is situated in the bowels of Carbinger.
Hi there, my name is...
Is that a kid?
You mean from Knight Rider? The preacher pulls the rusty hearse he's driving next to Steve, allowing for an unwanted glimpse inside. On the passenger seat is a clump of old gowns and a pair of women's underwear on top like a garnish. In the footwell is a sea of empty food cans, all of which without the slightest morsel left inside. And the only thing that isn't empty is the bucket of mysterious fluid nestled in the middle. In the back of the hearse is a large coffin decorated with dead flowers, and propped up next to it is an old Knight Rider DVD case that appears to be missing the disc.
I've never seen a version with a face before. This must be from a reboot.
My name is Steve.
Wow, his mouth moves.
I can show you what Kit 2.0 can do if you want
Very minimalist, this version.
some of my...
You've nearly got Knight's hairstyle as well. Not as handsome as him, not that I'm into that or anything.
questions. You can't hear me, can you? The preacher orbits Steve and inspects him like a car nut that everyone assumes nuts in cars. As he rotates around them, Gary spots his ears, or lack thereof, as they are just holes in the side of his head like he's infested with termites.
You've got visitor passes too. Well, with advanced cars like this, I can see why you've braved the outside world. Come with me. Terrence needs to see this feat of engineering.
Gary, do you have a plan of action?
No. I was hoping a plan would come to me while I was making that noise. Let's just see where we end up, I guess. I mean, at least that's better than racing.
You come from out of nowhere, almost cause a pile-up, then start firing a gun in the warm-up round? Who are you two clowns?
An old man with a sagging, wrinkly neck like the scrotum of an elephant sits across a long table from Ant and Gunter in a beautifully polished classic car with a Viper hood ornament that is frozen mid-strike.
We're professional drivers here to win the race and show people what we're made of.
I've seen your driving. You're clearly soilless.
The old man pulls out a white revolver with green snake engravings wrapped around the barrel and aims it between Ant's eyes.
It's a 22.
You killed my driver.
Oh, I didn't think Gunnar actually hit anything.
He owed me a lot of tokens, and now he's dead. That means the two of you owe me a lot of tokens.
No, we don't.
Yes, you do.
No.
Then I guess I'll just have to kill you. starting with the muscle.
You missed! Twice!
Gunter continues to laugh while blood squirts from the minuscule bullet holes in his chest and arms.
Oi, get him.
Like flipping a switch, Gunter's laugh turns into a growl and his face begins to scowl. He steps out the car and walks slowly towards the now cowering old man, whose scrotum-like neck is trembling with more force than the rest of his body.
Wait, I'll sign you to be my new driver. You can compete in the race if you get the Snake Snacks banner on your car.
We're not doing that to Veronica.
But you have to. How else am I supposed to sell spicy chicken nuggets, the food that bites back? It's so hard to sell something that isn't car-themed, but snakes are my identity.
Ant looks over to Gunter, who is now towering ominously over the classic car.
20%.
Gunter pulls his arm back and then, like a cannonball, fires his fist through the open car window. His knuckles connect with the old man's nose and instantly break it, spraying gloopy blood, sticky bogies and snake-like strips of snot across the beautiful pearl-white interior.
Okay, you don't have to get the paint job. Just please don't punch me anymore. I was already insecure about my looks.
Why did you think you could threaten us?
I'm used to everyone being scared of my gun, as I'm the only person in Carbinger that has one.
We could have just shot you.
I know, but I thought because my gun was drawn first that I'd be able to kill the two of you. I thought I leveled the playing field. I'm just not used to guns, alright?
Can I kill him now?
Please, no. You'll need me alive to compete under my company.
We step back, we need him.
Oh, come on! Can't I just kill him a bit?
Ant signals for Gunter to get in the car by patting on the driver's seat like he's calling for a gentle lapdog.
Oh, never get to kill living people.
Is there anything else we need to know about this race?
Just don't kill anyone. You technically wasn't a part of the race before, but now you're signed under me. You'll get disqualified if you attack the other racers.
Ant stares at the old man who continues to cower in his car, when all of a sudden the stench of fresh diarrhea shoots up his nose.
I really expected more from you. Such a promising introduction, and then we get this.
I'm sorry.
The pair leave the sobbing old man to cry amongst his lost fluids. As they drive out the Viper's Den, eloquently named after the jade vipers that surround the entrance, they are greeted by the female driver that was brave enough to stare into Gunter's eyes.
It's not often I see Romeo cut a deal with drivers as bad as yourself.
The polished silver revolver is once again in the clubbed fist of its owner, who aims towards the fearless racer. She sits unnerved and merely stares past the barrel. Her fiery red hair sways gently from the stadium's stale breeze, with small strands getting caught in the pronounced wrinkles of her skin.
If you really want to race, then you won't want to do that. Killing a nobody like the one whose brains are still splattered on the track will only get you a phone telling off. But me, I'm far from a nobody.
I failed to bring spare ammunition.
You'll never win while I still breathe.
The driver gently pulls away, disappearing into the traffic of the other residents, leaving nothing but a path of rose petals.
Are you in love with me?
A familiar grip forms around Ant's tiny neck.
Don't practice on me, you kinky freak.
The grip tightens while Gunter's gaze remains on the path of petals that gently blow in the breeze.
Are you seeing this? It's got a face that moves.
The preacher drives in circles around Steve, his excitement getting the better of him as he doesn't notice the line of drool hanging from his mouth. He continues pointing at various parts of Steve's robotic body while making noises you'd hope not to hear coming from your parents' bedroom.
There could be more like it outside the walls.
At the end of the room is an enormous window that sits above Carbinger's racetrack, looking down on its populace. Silhouetted in the window's light is an impossibly large, pristine, pearl-white, open-topped, six-wheeled classic car that would be fitting for the dictator of a scary nation. Poking out of the car is a cowboy hat with a crown that towers far above the rest of it, which is placed eloquently on the round head of a tiny and even rounder man. The round man raises one of his frail arms that is wrapped in a clean white suit, adorned with cufflinks in the shape of a nut threaded onto a bolt, and he points towards the door without uttering a word.
Yes, Terence.
The preacher slurps up the hanging drool and quickly hurries to the room's exit with his head down.
What's an outsider doing in my city?
I need the V20 Guzzler engine that you have as the prize to a race.
Done. Now,
get out of here and take your car with you.
Okay.
Steve starts reversing, but as he does so, Gary jolts upright and says,
Wait, why are you so eager to get rid of us?
My people are happy with what they've got. I don't want you showing them there's more than what we can offer.
More? This is what you call more?
Gary pats Steve's monitor, causing it to flicker.
That was mean.
If we give our residents the taste of something more, then they'll want more until the point we can't give it to them.
Hey, my generation were raised dreamers with grand visions of something more, and we turned out fine.
Terrence steps out of his car, revealing a round body atop two stick-like legs that would be of regular size if attached to a normal person.
You outsiders know nothing of my people, and yet you traipse in here and start questioning how we do things.
He walks towards the window with the light illuminating his ghoulish face that not even a mother could love, and he begins to twiddle the well-groomed moustache on his otherwise well-shaved face.
Did you know we sit atop an endless pit of fuel, and it's all mine to sell?
Oh, I guess you said dibs before anyone else.
My family made this city and made everyone who they are today. We made their entire religion just so they'd buy more fuel. We tell them about the fuelless world outside the walls to keep them in the city, so they continue to buy my fuel. The only reason we open our gates to let scum like you in is so the residents don't feel trapped.
Well, that part's all right.
Because it'll break the illusion of free will. If they believe they're free, then they believe they chose this life, and so they won't bite the hand that feeds them.
Why would you do that to your people?
Why would I spread my ass cheeks and press my exhaust against this window, even though nobody can see through the other side?
His grin widens and fills his monstrous face.
Because I can. Fuck 'em. Now take that engine you came here for and get out of here.
Aren't you worried about me telling people what you just said?
They're happy with the life they chose. Besides, they wouldn't believe an outsider anyway because they only listen to their God, and their God listens to me.
Gary's body is hit with an overwhelming heaviness, where even his eyelids feel as though they have weights attached to them. His head drops, hanging below his shoulders, with his forehead pressed gently against Steve's monitor.
I'm not going to make it back home, am I?
His eyes gently open and are greeted by a soft, blinking red light, and next to it, a lens that is desperately trying to focus in on Gary's now opportunistic face.
Racers, start your engines! 3, 2, 1, go! And they're off, except for, I think, Snake Snacks, who seem to have stalled on the starting line. I don't know who that driver is, but they sure must be embarrassed.
I hate this wretched car.
This ain't Veronica's fault, and you know that, so just take it slow.
There must be something wrong with that car. As in all my years commentating, I've never seen a racer stall on the start line.
Just ignore him. You can kill him later.
You mean it?
Sure, buddy. You've hardly killed anyone today. You've earned it.
A smile appears on Gunter's face, which quickly turns to a determined glare as he stares down the road ahead of him. He snaps the car into gear, revs the engine, unleashing its deafening scream, and then gently releases his foot from the clutch, allowing the car to gracefully roll into action.
After a slow start, Snake Snacks eventually get off the starting line and, join the race probably isn't the right term for it, but they're giving it a go, which I guess is commendable. But with determination like that, who knows? I sure wouldn't want to get in the way of that driver as he looks ready to kill someone.
A flash of red tears past, leaving the smell of burnt tires and a trail of rose petals behind it.
And there she goes, the crowd favorite fly past the competition, as she always does.
Standing tall amongst the crowd in a convertible sports car is a middle-aged man with a large letter M tattooed on his torso. He waves and points at his chest, trying to get the attention of the star driver, then reaches down into the passenger seat, pulling out a bouquet of roses. He hurls the bouquet onto the track like a newlywed bride, and it's swiftly struck by the already rose-spattered car, causing a red mist to erupt from the impact.
Fuck 'em.
The preacher squints at the monitor that usually features Steve's pixelated face, but is now flickering with life as it shows the recent encounter with Terrence. He groans as his eyes fade in and out of focus on the convenient subtitles that he is mouthing along to.
Fuck 'em.
He's lied to you this entire time. Steve quickly converts Gary's words into text on his monitor so he doesn't have to yell into the preacher's dusty ear holes.
My whole life I've lived a lie.
But now I've helped you become free.
I just can't believe it. All those years wasted, sitting in this car, in my own filth, when I could have just walked out of here.
I know this must be pretty hard for you, finding out your religion is a lie to profit the already wealthy. The preacher, after jostling the handle a few times, swings open his car door and stretches out his skinny, weak and ghoulishly grey legs. His long yellow toenails touch the wooden floorboards, shortly followed by the foot they're connected to, and he stands triumphantly in front of the stained glassed effigies of the church.
I'm furious. We could stand this whole fucking time without getting struck down.
We can stand? We can stand! A crowd that had gathered for the preacher's sermon begin to shout, and one by one step out of their cars so they can scream out in rage. That's the part you have a problem with. How is standing news to you?
We had faith in the word of gods. We feared being struck down if we stepped outside of their protection. Plus, have you seen that beggar out there? He's been struck down more times than I can count. I mean, look, he's covered in poop.
You're covered in poop?
Yes, but it's my own.
But what about all the other stuff? He's basically stealing from you.
I was fine about that. I liked my job and it pays well. But I've been sat in that chair so long that my ass has turned to stone.
He knocks on his left cheek that refuses to budge as if there was cheap plastic surgery inside of it.
I even threw my wife's body out the coffin in the back, just so I had a place to lie down and stretch my legs.
Your entire way of life was fabricated, and yet you're angry because you were uncomfortable?
Brothers and sisters, we must spread the word. Terrence can stand, and so can we. We shall stand together. But first, we must make some flyers so we can spread our message even faster.
Steve's body clicks and clacks, springing to life and starts rapidly printing propaganda flyers depicting Terrence's round body supported by his comparatively muscular legs. Underneath in bold lettering is the slogan, "He stands."
I could do it so easily. Just one quick bump is all I need.
Get a hold of yourself. You know you can't.
But I need it.
You'll get disqualified if you tell anyone.
No one will ever know. If I just bump into one of them on a corner, I could make them hit a wall. Just imagine how beautiful the fire will be. And the smell. The delicious scent like beef and burnt hair.
Ant looks over to his muscular, dribbling companion with a raised eyebrow and a slightly slacked jaw.
Why can't you just be into feet like a normal person?
Entering Ant's view appears the rose-smeared bonnet of Morgan's car, shortly followed by Morgan herself.
You've done much better than I anticipated. I was impressed that you managed to get this lump of rust started again.
Hey, I was fine with you bullying Baldy over it, but insulting Veronica is too far.
Morgan's eyes refuse to fix onto Ant and continue to stare at Gunther, who is now shaking himself out of his daydream about burnt flesh and gristle.
You can't win. Do you hear the crowd? They're here for me and me alone.
Morgan! No one cares!
This is my world that you make a mockery of.
A bouquet of roses strikes Morgan's car directly, instantly erupting into a red mist, of which Gunther is accustomed to seeing at the receiving end of his revolver.
You'll never feel the same amount of love and admiration that I feel from these great people.
Morgan! We still don't care!
The racers have finally reached the final lap.
You're nothing to them, and never will be.
Once again, Morgan tears off into the distance, leaving only the red trail of roses behind her. Except this time, Gunther follows closely on her tail. A wave of clarity has washed over his cold and bitter face, morphing into one of sheer determination. He smacks Veronica's gear stick into position, like it were the face of an innocent bystander, executing perfect gear changes, which inched the car even closer to the competition. Each and every corner is navigated with extreme precision, coming so close as to peel away layers of rust on the corner's edge, like it was dead skin on an almost lifeless body. Gunther guides Veronica around the track, dodging potholes and car parts that mostly came from them on previous laps, which explains where their extra speed has come from. His heavy foot stops down even harder on the accelerator, creating a dent in the metal behind it, and he continues to shorten the lead between them and Morgan. As he gets closer and closer, the legions of fans in the stands begin to disperse, becoming thinner and thinner. The sound of stationary engines start to die, leaving only the reverberated echoes of the racing cars and the now fading chants to the star driver. The chants completely disappear, along with the last few remaining stragglers in the crowd. All that remains are the piles upon piles of empty cans and torn up racing merchandise. The only life left amongst the stands are the rats that feast on what little remains. Then, like a virus, it begins to spread to the racers, as one by one they begin to leave the track, until all that's left is Veronica, the rose-spattered car, and the last few loose petals that now rest atop the dusty ground. Morgan's eyes lock onto the stands and its barrenness. Her mouth slowly opens and her lips start to quiver as a single tear drops from her eye. An enormous fireball ignites from her car as she plows headfirst into a wall, launching pieces of debris into the air along with a small pocket spanner. Ginormous rose-red flames flicker and lash out from the car, leaving singe marks across the wall. From the depths of the heat comes a single, faint and gargled scream, but it's masked by the ferocious whooshes of the excited fire. From beneath the molten wreckage crawls the blackened remains of Morgan, whose shriveled up face silently howls for help as her eyes begin to boil in her evaporating tears.
Look who's nothing now! Literally you!
Gunther pulls the car up next to the fiery wreckage so he can get a better view to laugh at Morgan's rapidly liquefying face that continues to try to scream. Ant leans his body out the window and stares into Morgan's eye sockets.
Still won't even look at me. Gonna go and finish the race.
You mean win the race?
Yes, you've won the race because there's nobody left to race.
The car gently crosses the finish line to cheers of nobody except for Gunther.
You still got a few more laps to do. You wasn't close to winning before everyone quit or died.
Ant glances over and is met by his companion's rolling eyes. Veronica is put back into gear and steps off once more for a few victory laps, to the pleasure of nobody but the driver.
What a turn of events! To the shock of everyone, Snake's Necks are going to win the race. Are we even allowed to give them the prize after all that's happened? I hope I still get paid after this. Wait, why am I still commentating? I should be joining the riots.
He stood, and now he burns.
A cheering crowd surrounds the preacher, who stands proudly in front of a pile of burning tyres, where lies Terence, whose slightly muscular legs shine ablaze. The fire slowly and agonizingly climbs around his body, eventually reaching his face. His screams of pain fade away as the smoke surrounding him buries down into his lungs to suffocate him. He jolts himself, throwing his body uncontrollably in all directions. His white suit eventually peels away from his body as it burns, and slowly reveals his bloated belly that thankfully covers his presumably disfigured genitals.
This is fine. I didn't cause this. They chose to barbecue this guy.
I think you incited this riot.
Yeah, but they would have found out about the corruption eventually. This was an inevitability.
But
Inevitability. Steve disconnects himself from the wheels he was holding onto and stands to his feet. Gary, who was sat on top of his printer body like a lazy emperor, slides off and tumbles into the ground like a crash test dummy. Oh, can't you just drive me for a bit longer? I've had a really hard day today.
you need to walk around some more. You are already very weak, and if you get weaker, then you will lower your chances of getting back to your timeline.
Take my hand. You've done so much for this city, and it's the least I can do to repay you.
In front of Gary's face is the preacher's outstretched hand, blackened with soot and speckled brown with poop. Their palms connect with a squelch like treading on a slug, and as the preacher pulls Gary to his feet, he almost topples over from being out of practice of standing. I'm glad I could help this lovely place.
What are you going to do now?
We'll explore beyond these walls, away from the pit, and learn of the technologies on offer to us. Out with the old and in with the new. Burn it all and rise out of the ashes like a Pontiac.
Gotta look, it's that guy who didn't think we could win a race.
Veronica chugs through a crowd of wobbly-legged rioters and comes to a familiar chugging stop before Gary's feet. Gunter and Ant greet him with wide grins as the V20 Guzzler engine, their unearned prize, is jammed in the boot. How did you find us?
We didn't mean to, he was just following the burger smell.
Let's get out of here before I see any more people die.
Now that's what I call a ring of fire. I really wish someone strapped Terrence down, as I did not want to see that man's exhaust pipe.
Oh, Gary, you might not want to watch this. I did kind of make the big man a promise.
Eyes wide and grin even wider, Gunter steps from the car, cracking his knuckles as he strolls towards the unsuspecting race commentator. As the city of Carbinger fades away on the moonlit horizon, Veronica drives steady with her new hood ornament that flaps in the wind. The severed and jawless head of the race commentator jiggles with life from the car's grille, with each bump causing his eyes to roll with derision.
It's been a sunny day today out here in the waste, though then again it always is. But now the stars have come out to greet us, it's become the perfect night to drive away from all our problems. And we've got the perfect songs for you.
Can you turn the radio off, please? I could really do with some quiet. Ant turns towards Gary, who is laying down on the back seat with his legs poking out of the window. He turns back around and elegantly extends his hand in an overtly expressive manner, then turns down the radio so Gary can only just hear it. What a disaster that was.
But at least we did not
Cock up!
You did better than I thought you would.
Oh yes, you owe me 50 credits.
I just can't shake the feeling that the rioting was my fault.
It was.
Don't worry about it. I doubt any of this is going to come back to haunt us. Besides, I'm sure they're all fine.
If we are to continue standing, we must burn all that held us back.
Yeah, and I helped get rid of their corrupt leader. All those people are free to live their lives because of me.
We stand together as disciples of the flame, which will light the path we walk.
Maybe there is a place in this world for me after all.
The fire will cleanse all sin, starting with the lies. Burn the fuel pit.
Maybe I can actually make a difference. Within an instant, the sky turns a bright, irradiating orange as the giant ball of fire illuminates and brings life to the dead world that surrounds it. The night briefly becomes day, revealing the decaying lands, from the city of Brighthaven all the way to the mountains of Crater. The fire slowly expands, growing bigger and bigger, making the air around it morph and twist from its immense heat. Pieces of scrap metal, old tires, and Dwayne Johnson motivational bobbleheads fall like meteorites to the ground around Veronica, spitting up dust and stones on impact. The light then begins to fade as the black smoke and dust start to overpower the flames and eventually blocks out the full moon behind it. Darkness falls once more, covering the world in pitch blackness, with all that remains being the smell of burnt burger meat and hair lingering in the air.
You know what? We could have just stolen the engine. If we had 2 guns, we would have outgunned them.
Ant reaches over and pats the jaw-dropped Gary on the shoulder. He then reaches over to the car radio and gently bumps up the volume.
Watch my baby glow brighter than the sun, dancing in moonlight, slowly spun. Just like that, I knew she was the one. A loving embrace can't be outrun.